so I'm going to start a little series here for those of you not in the know. I purchased this 1961 Ford Falcon. This car is a respray. It is not the original paint. It is not the original seats or headliner. I'll open it up. Headliner's been redone, seats have been redone. And they added these kick panel speakers and that monstrously ugly CD player that I will be taking out. I don't have it open right now, but under the hood is a stock inline six, except for the 170 block has been swapped out for a 200 block. It still has the 170 head on it. Today, I'm going to be swapping out these front drums for a disc brake kit. Okay, here is our kit. Okay, so this kit comes from Tom's Classic. He is an eBay seller. These kits run about 400 bucks. They're not super crazy. I believe the disc it uses and the caliper it uses are from a Ford Granada. And then it has his bracketry. Comes with bearings, bolts, seals, dust caps, everything you need to do the install. Give you an install instruction sheet. It says 66 to 64 Mustang, but this is a kit he put together for me because everything he lists on eBay pretty much has drilled and slotted rotors. I do not like drilled and slotted rotors. I never will like drilled and slotted rotors. I'm okay with the slots. I'm not okay with the drilled holes. Those always crack. Every set I've ever run has always cracked. And so I just choose not to run them. A good set of blanks on this car will work just fine. I will post a link to this kit on the description so you can find it, or at least to his eBay store, because he sells a bunch of other stuff, a bunch of applications. He sells master cylinder conversions, all sorts of stuff on there, so I'll post a link there. Before we get started here, I'm going to point out, if you watch all these videos, all these YouTubers, they all have these Viper chairs that cost like some ungodly amount of money. I like to spend money, but I could not justify that. But these Freaky Fit chairs from Amazon are hydraulic. They go up and down. They're heavy duty, big square tube. They have rollerblade style wheels on them. They're actually really nice. So if you're looking for a good shop stool that's like $100, try these out. All right, let's get into this. So gooey. Booger in the threads there. And look at my beautiful polished floor. Checking out the spindle just to see what kind of condition it's in. And I'm feeling no grooves, nothing's catching the fingernail. Not that I can feel my fingernails because I'm wearing gloves. But everything here is looking really good. The bearings are going to be replaced, the races, the seals, all that comes with the new kit. So none of the stuff that I'm pulling is getting reused except for like the big nut and the washer and the little castle nut retainer that you put on before the cotter pin. So next we'll get into tearing these factory brakes off. All right, one trick on these older hard lines, on these older cars, to make sure that it is not bonded to the tube nut will actually spin, is I don't know heat. That should help the tube nut break free from the hard line. The channel locks them at vice grips. Right off camera here, added a little heat. Now thing's nice and free. That is free. There we go. Now, because I'm not reusing any of this, I can just take the 4 nuts off the backside and take the whole drum assembly off, pads, wheel cylinders, all in one. These bolts on the inside are not supposed to spin. They're supposed to catch on the flats. That is not happening. So, I'm going to force the issue. This is what that bolt looks like on the other side. This is supposed to catch, but it's just spinning and spinning. So we'll get these other 3 out and come back. Okay, all 4 of the bolts are out. So now that just comes off, all one piece. So now the next step is a lot of cleaning. We're gonna clean the crap out of all these surfaces. Obviously don't need to clean this part to put brakes on, but I can't help myself. There's a lot of excess grease and stuff everywhere. Little history on how I managed to come across this car. I had been looking for a Falcon, either 60 or 61 in this Medeville green for a little over 2 years maybe, and I was getting to the point where I really was ready to make a purchase, and nothing was coming up, and I was just kind of letting it go. And I had made a post in some social media groups for Falcons, like, you know, asking for, hey, anybody selling this type of car, blah, blah, blah. Didn't get anything. And then a month later, I saw a post where somebody was sharing screenshots of my post saying, hey, help me find this guy. I have the car he wants, yada, yada, yada. And after about a month back and forth with him, finally was able to strike a deal, and I had to fly down to Santa Ana, California, go look at it, sign title, pay the guy, so on and so forth, or girl, I guess. And then I had it transported up to me about a week later. So I had to do a little bit of traveling to find it. but I'm really glad I held out because I got the condition I wanted, I got the color I wanted. I'm not doing, you know, the big question here is like, hey, this brake conversion is still 4-lug, it's not very big, blah, blah, blah. And I'm putting it on the stock suspension, but long term, the plan is not to leave this car stock suspension. I want to do some nice stuff with some big brakes and 15-inch wheels and something bigger rear end in the back, and potentially a V8 in the engine bay someday. But for now, I just kind of want to drive it and enjoy it for a little while, so I'm just doing a mild upgrade. Anyways, I'm gonna stay at this a little bit longer and work on cleaning this up, but you can see I got the spindle nice and clean. And this is looking a little better. And I'll come back to you when we start the reassembly. All right, we're gonna call this clean, other than a little spray off and wipe off, but we're gonna move over to prepping some stuff. We've got to get this bearing and this seal popped into here. That's pretty simple. You're just gonna pack the bearing full of grease, set it in there, and then drive this seal in, and that will hold it in place. All right, I only did one, but bearings in, packed, seals in, and now we're moving on to these brackets. Sprayed this brake cleaner one last time, and so this one is gonna mount so that this flat surface faces that direction. Look at the front of the vehicle. Got the instructions here. Once the backing plate is removed, the first bracket mounts on the face of the spindle. Make sure it's centered. Second bracket mounts behind it with the 3/8-16 bolts, those guys there with the lock washers. And then it shows you what it looks like. The caliper bracket mounts behind this first bracket we're doing, and that faces the front of the vehicle. These are exactly the same, but you may have to groove. So this will just line up like that. It does. Ta-da. So these are 3/8 grade 8 fine thread bolts. Uncle Google says 37 foot-pounds. Let's see how that feels. This one from the front. Careful with that, but you're not getting it back there. All right, the next bracket is a caliper bracket, and a quick peek at the orientation. Flatter one is the bottom, your angle is the top. It's going to sit just like that. Bolts 4 nuts. It's occurring to me I could have done a better job of having this stuff at the ready. Probably mean less trimming of the video. torque. All right. So your next step is going to be rotor on, front bearing pacton on, setting the preload on the rotor, and then we put the calipers and the lines on, and then move to the other side. Okay, quick second here. When you take apart the old stuff, you gotta save these three pieces: the washer, the nut, and the little castle nut retainer thing. Got this cleaned, torqued, ready to go. Got my caliper, my rotor, my hose, my remaining hardware here, ready to go. And I'm gonna take a quick pause because I forgot that I told my wife today I would make her a tri-tip on the smoker. So I'm gonna go do that and we'll come back. If any of y'all are curious, here's the tri-tip for today. This was dry brined for 36 hours in the fridge, which is basically salt it, put it in plastic, put it in the fridge. And then we're using a washer sister sauce binder, and we're going a little sweet with the KC butt spice. I do these more brisket style, I guess you could say. It's going to go on for about 3 hours at 165. It's going to go on for an hour and a half at 180 with a turn. And then it's going to come off, and then we're just going to open flame, sear it 5 minutes aside. Okay, we're back on the car. Let's get this corner put together, and we can move on to the other side. So I am going to, should have done this before I changed my gloves, but I'm going to grease the spindle a little bit, just so it's lubed. You'll have grease on your bearings too, but this helps a little bit. Spindle goes on. I'm sorry. Rub goes on the spindle rather. All right, so now we're going to install the front bearing. Push that in. Now, like they said, spacer, flat side out, washer, and nut. Okay, setting this bearing. Make sure this is just hand tight first. Here's what Ford's going to tell you to do. They're going to tell you while you're rotating this to sneak up on 17. Oh, helps if you turn it on. Sneak up on 17 to 25 foot-pounds. So I'm going to rotate, and while I'm rotating, I'm going to tighten. This is not the exact right size. There's about 20, 22, 25. That's 25 right there. So I stole this from, and you can look it up too, but Crazy KC Customs on YouTube went over this. And basically what they tell you to do next is you find a spot on your little cotter pin nut here, and they want you to basically back this off with the castle nut one spot. What he says is that every time he ever does that, this deforms and just spins and the other nut doesn't loosen. So what he does is he will mark it and then back it off using the marks as a reference until he's on the next spot back. So what we want to do is loosen this until it's here. I may go to a different spot just because that cotter pin slot's a little beat up. I'll use that one. So we're gonna back this off until it lines up with this slot in this little castle nut. That's what Ford tells you to do. So that should be pretty simple. I don't even think I need the mark. If I pull that back, and I'm aiming to go here, from here to here, it should just be that tiny little bit. So from here to here, I'm about halfway. And now from here to here, about 3/4 of the way. And now I'm dead on. So that's my one spot. I've got no play, spins freely. That should do it. That fell off, but since we already positioned it, it's not super important. I'll just find another one that lines up. It's probably the original one anyway. And then we install our cotter pin. And there you have it. We've got no play. She spins good. So that is the method that Ford service manuals tell you to do. It came from like a Mustang, but it's the same stuff. This caliper is preloaded. Pads, bolts, everything. Before we put it on, we'll do some rotor cleaning. Not bad. We're good. You're wondering, these are labeled left and right, but also your bleeder should always be up. 3/8 Allen wrenches. Or Allen head bolts. Alright, she's tight. With the hard line. That is one side done. The only thing left is a little dust cap. What you're really supposed to do this is all right, that's side one all said and done. I'm gonna go over do side two. I'll show you the finished result. I'm not gonna film all of that because I'm gonna show you both sides and make you watch both sides because I'm sure this is already boring enough. But here we go. Okay, and just like magic, we are finished. I didn't do the brake bleed. You can see a million brake bleeding procedures out there. The car is all back in one piece. I drove down the road, it drives great. It brakes much, much better. Did some bed in, and that's pretty much it. All right, for the meat follow-up, this thing has been on the smoker for 3 hours at 165, flipped an hour and a half at 180, and now I've got a lump charcoal fire started for the sear. There we are, all seared up. Now we wrap and rest. And just like that, here we are, all tucked in. Nice and cozy. I still have some things to set up in the garage here. Find homes for this crap and some totes and stuff, but it's coming together. I drove this thing a bit and did some brake bedding. It works really well. It's not a ton of extra braking power, but definitely stops in a shorter distance now. I think with some more driving, they'll bed in a little bit better and it may improve. Also, the next thing I want to do is that dual reservoir master cylinder with the adjustable proportioning valve, and I think that'll make a big difference too. So,